Hi. Okay, so the next steps at this stage, you can see my work setup. I've got, this is my whiteboard is at the back of this. This is a piece of paper that I've got that you can see is covered in all sorts of old paint that it just protects the whiteboard itself. This has got paper on top. This is my board, which I showed you in the previous videos, Schillerhammer's 4G that I'm working on to, which I've put a 1 centimetre border of tape round on the back. I've also put magnets underneath the tape that I've folded over and put magnets underneath in all four corners, so it sits very nicely onto my board. And if I want to move it around, I can, if it helps my angle, but generally I prefer to work in the same position. I've got my reference picture here. I've got that inside a plastic sheet, which is just a normal plastic sheet you get off of. It's just sitting inside, and that protects it when I'm painting, so that any overspray just goes on the plastic sheet and not onto my reference picture. I've got here my two cleaning tools for when I'm getting rid of tip dry off my airbrush. I have one which I have wet, which has got cleaning fluid on it, which I put the head of the airbrush into. I literally just move it around the bristles and wipe off any tip dry, and then I use the second one, which will be dry, and that just takes off the excess liquid. And of course I've got my trusty spare sheet of paper over here, which I use to blow off any excess liquid before I go back into painting. I use it to test spray to make sure that the airbrush is working before I go anywhere near my artwork. So these have got magnets on them as well, and I just pop them down here. So I use I've been using various different techniques for erasing. I already showed you my electric razors and stuff in the previous one. I just also wanted to show you that these pencil rubbers that I have with the soft and the hard, I also have I have two of them because I've cut them differently. This one I've cut more with a flat sides, so it gives it a flatter, wider edge here to use. And these ones, this one I just kept these round, but I tend to cut these with a blade rather than using a pencil sharpener, which could damage them when you're sharpening them. They're just not as good, not as reliable. In general, if you've got any pencils, even your graphic pencils, when you're drawing, it's better to actually cut them than to use a pencil sharpener. Another thing you use this for, this extra sheet, is that if you get your rubber and you've got some pencil on it and it's got a bit black, so you've been rubbing something out, you can just rub that on there to clean it off. So don't forget to keep keeping your erasers clean, so that you don't put more marks on than you take off. And also, of course, I've got my brush here to take off any parts of the eraser that gets left behind. I also have, for scratching techniques, I found, thanks to watching some other videos, that this one, which is a 15 blade, which is a rounded blade. So you can see here, this is a rounded blade as opposed to this one, which is a more like a 33-degree angle blade, and which has a very sharp point. Now when you're using this to scratch your paint for scratching techniques, if you use this one, you're more likely to damage the surface. And the nice thing about this rounded one is that it uses different sides of it, and it also doesn't damage the surface of your card as much. At this point I also wanted to show you, before I start to paint, this is where I'll do a little bit more cleaning up, where, for example, on the eyelashes here, some of them are thick and thin, so just clean it up, and you'll find that one way of scratching with the blade will work better than the other, and it's just a question of finding out which one works the best. So I'm finding this one's working better, and I just want to clean this up a little bit before I start painting. See if that one works better over there. As you can see, just cleaning it up a little bit. And this one down here, you can see that that's quite thick. So, and it's got a little bit of an edge there that I won't want. So I'm just taking that off. Gently scratching. Don't go in too hard. Remember, you don't want to damage the surface. Now, I always have, I say, with these knives they are extremely sharp, so I always keep, for these ones, because they don't come with a cover for the blade, I use an old rubber. And also I've got my handy shields, which I'm going to use while I'm painting now. I don't need the stencils particularly anymore, unless I find for some reason I want to use them. But generally I'm just going to use these. These are Chuck Bauman's. You can go to chuckbauman.com and he has a whole series of these kind of stencils that you can download for free. He doesn't mind at all. You can download them. He's put public domain on there, and you can. I print these into photo paper, which is glossy, and so it's a bit got some waterproof, and then I just cut them out. Of course, you've got to be careful when you're cutting them out, try and get a nice edge. And I have them printed out at 2 different sizes. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that when shake these before you actually start to paint, because I don't know if you can see there, but it makes bubbles. You want to give it time to let those bubbles go down before you start using it to go to paint. I will be using my Olympus MC200C micron, which has a 0.23 needle in it. So that's it. This is my workspace, and the next time I run the tape, hopefully I'll be recording me painting. Okay, take care. Bye.